Hello and welcome back to On the Workbench. Today we're doing a head-to-head comparison of the relatively new U.S. General Harbor Freight 5-outlet heavy-duty power strip, magnetic power strip, and the Kobalt magnetic power strip from Lowe's. And so we're going to unbox these, take a look at these and see what you get for the money. The Kobalt one comes in at about $25. And the U.S. General one lists for $29, but obviously if you get a 20 or 25% off coupon, you can take that off of this, or you might be able to find a dedicated coupon for it. So they both come in at approximately the same price of about 25 bucks, give or take.
Let me interrupt this video with a very quick public service announcement. Because of the magnets on the back of these power strips, these should not be used or placed on the side of, say, a desktop computer case, or even if you've got a laptop with a traditional magnetic platter hard drive. Do not put this near that on your tool cart, as you could damage or permanently erase or otherwise destroy the hard drives in your laptop. So now, with that quick disclaimer out of the way, let's go on with the rest of this video.
So let's first start with the Kobalt. And so this Kobalt one has two USB strips. It's all black. As we take this out of the box, not much to it. You can see we've got the power strip here, nicely bagged up. And then we've got a reset switch here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then one for an adapter if you've got a transformer. And then two USB ports at the end, two magnets on the back, and those actually have a nice soft rubber feel to them, so they shouldn't mar the side of your toolbox or something else like that. Let's take a look at some dimensions. This specific one here comes in about 1 3/4 inches wide, and then from in the other direction comes in right at a foot long. And then as far as the thickness, about 3/4 of an inch thick, including the magnets. Has a 3-prong grounded outlet, or a grounded plug. All these are grounded with the extra space for the adapter, so that's nice. And now we'll set that aside and take a look at the U.S. General. Harbor Freight just recently started carrying this. In all fairness, Lowe's only started carrying the other ones not that long before. One of the things that's interesting here on the Harbor Freight, if I look at the bottom here, it looks like they actually have this mounted to the somewhat famous budget-priced tool cart. We flip this over on the back, gives us just a few more specs here. Good for 1875 watts, 19 pounds of magnetic pull force with 3.1 amps of USB power. The back of the Kobalt one does not give as detailed specs. And so if you look at the side of the box here, it simply says 6 3-prong ports, 6-foot cord, 2 USB ports, industrial strength rubber coated magnets. So I've got to give my tip of the hand to the Harbor Freight for being a little more specific here as to what the capacity of that is. If we look back at the Harbor Freight, at the Kobalt, I'm not seeing exactly what it is. Anyway, moving on, the Harbor Freight one here, 63737. So let's open this one up and see what we get. And so this comes out. And the red is actually, this is actually a nice touch that it's wrapped to protect the red finish. This actually has a cord keeping mechanism built into it by means of, you see the end ports here, you can use to wrap a cord around, so that if you got this on the side of a tool cart, you could wrap up an extension cord to keep something else out of the way. So we take the paper here off to the side, and we look at what we get here. We actually have 2 easily accessible mounting holes, and then we've got 2 magnets. This actually is rubber coated on the back side of the magnets, but then you can actually literally see the magnets there, as opposed to the Kobalt ones where they're fully rubber encased. tip of the hat for the Kobalt on that one, but I think that'll still do the job there, and you actually have access to the mounting holes there, so that's good. At the end, actually on both of these, the cords come out of the end. We've got our circuit breaker. This one here actually has one fewer outlet. We've got 4 regular outlets and one set aside for a transformer. And so that's actually 5 outlets as opposed to the 6 that you'd find. Actually, let me put this the other way just to line up the spacing. And so you can see Kobalt was able to add in an extra outlet on that. The orientation of the USBs are flipped 90 degrees. I don't think that really matters. I really like this cord keeper function, and so I might even be willing to sacrifice the extra outlet for that. I'm not sure that's that big of a deal. The gauge of the wire, let's look at the cord here on the Harbor Freight. This is embossed or imprinted as 14 American wire gauge. And if you can make that out there, 14 AWG. If we go over to the Kobalt, this one is also embossed, and this one is also 14 AWG X3 for 3 conductor, good for 300 volts, 60 degrees Celsius. So we've got the same wire gauge on both of these. The Harbor Freight one actually includes an extra cord keeping snap that the Kobalt one does not. So you could wrap this up around and snap this back to itself to be able to keep the cord out of its way if you're rolling around on a tool cart. Again, I think that's a nice feature. You've got an extra status light here, which I find peculiar because usually these switches are all lit. So let's plug this in. And see that lights up. And we'll plug in the Kobalt. And so now both of these are hot, so to speak. Flip the reset light off. On, there we go. There's an extra LED there, which I find to just be almost useless on the Harbor Freight, but I don't know, I guess it's okay. It at least tells you that it's hot. And so one of the things I think is nice about this, and one of the reasons for buying these, is I like the USB ports, so I could then use it to be able to recharge either the camera I use for YouTube, my cell phone, or even one of these, I know I jumped on the Harbor Freight Braun light bandwagon like many other folks did to be able to charge this light. I know it's not this cable. This is the micro USB. And so I got some ports for that just with easy access. I thought this would be a nice addition. The measurements on the Harbor Freight power strip from end to end, 15 and 3/16 long. Now this is going from the full length of the end of the cord wrap. Keep in mind there is this inner dimension here. That comes in about 1.25 inches. The thickness of this, if we include the magnets, comes in at 1 inch and about 9/16. And then the width going the other way here, call it 2.25 inches front to back. And so that's your dimensions on this one. When we look at the back here, 125 volts AC, relocatable power strip, conforms to the Underwriter Laboratory specs. Beware, blah, 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 common expectations. Now, one of the things here that I wish on both of them, just to be fair, that I think this applies to both, is I really wish both of these had a right angle plug, so I could plug it in the wall and then have it actually go flat up against it rather than sticking out. Minor pet peeve, but it's hard to find power strips that are like that. At some point, I may cut the end off one of these and turn it into a 90-degree plug and just rewire it myself. I'm not going to do that today on video. It's just something I might do in the future. So now let's take a look at this red against some other red-colored toolboxes in my garage to see how they compare color-wise. So now I'm over at my toolbox. On the bottom is a Menards Master Force red box. This is now actually technically out of production. They now went to some slightly different colors as they went to the full depth or 24-inch depth boxes. And then I've got these red Craftsman boxes on top. And then over here on the side, if you can see it there, is the old red Harbor Freight 2-can spray can holder, or in my case here, it's turned into kind of a catch-all holder. And so let's see how this compares. So let's look at the red on the Harbor Freight here. And then this is a Milwaukee knife that I have out for comparison. since Milwaukee has red toolboxes. The shiny finish on the Harbor Freight one is definitely, you can see a difference on that. Comparing this to the Craftsman, I'd say the Craftsman is just a touch darker, maybe a shade or two darker. Not that noticeable. Let's go down to the Master Force red. I'd say this is definitely a shade or two brighter. This one did not actually come with a tool strip or power strip like some of the newer ones do. When it comes to the Kobalt, it's interesting, if you look on the back here, you can see that there's some extra screws, a couple mounting bolts, and I can read back through here just a little bit more on the specs. So I think we could remove this and learn a little bit more. Actually, there we go. I can slide that off just like that. So you only have to undo the one screw. And now this gets me on the back here. This power strip here is actually branded as Light Sun Surge Protective Device. Rated for 125 volts AC, 80 hertz. Certified CSA, Underwriters Laboratory listings. USB says for IT equipment only. I think that's it, and I guess that's French. And this is definitely made in China. Just for the record, the Harbor Freight one on the box clearly says made in China, as does the Kobalt on the box. The Kobalt one here is interesting because this actually says distributed by Waterloo Industries. You know, Waterloo is based in Sedalia, Missouri, and they make many of the American-made toolboxes that are out there on the market, or at least American-made with global components. And you can actually buy one that's branded Waterloo. I'll put a link below to Amazon for the Waterloo branded one. But the Waterloo branded one generally has more of a surrounded metal holder that you might have seen if you ever saw the Caterpillar boxes in store at Lowe's, or some of the other boxes that they've made. There's a very distinctive look on that. That's a dead giveaway that you're looking at a Waterloo box. And so with this one screw, we can screw that back on. I actually have a use for both of these in slightly different spots in my garage, so I got one of each because I wanted to be able to, I couldn't find any videos about these and I just want to see what was there. On the Kobalt one, still no information about the USB. I'll have to figure out some way to figure out what the USB rating is on that. If I can find that, I'll put that in the description below. And so I hope you found this video useful, and have a great day.